Hello and welcome to ARC PDX, everybody. I'm Wesley Ogle. ARC PDX is on the road this morning. We are here at Sunshine Division's warehouse in Wilsonville. You may already be aware that ARC stands for Authentic Relevant Community. So we have been going on the road to your communities to dig into the stories that are authentic and relevant to all of you. Today, we are diving deep into the issue of food insecurity here in Oregon. So let's start with the latest in the legal battle over SNAP benefits. Nearly 42 million Americans receive food stamps, including more than 750,000 Oregonians. Yesterday, a federal judge in Rhode Island ordered the Trump administration to pay out full SNAP benefits for the month of November by today. Days earlier, the administration had said it would partially fund the program in response to another court order. But under this new ruling, the government must tap into billions of additional dollars held by USDA so that full SNAP benefits can be paid. The administration has already appealed this latest order. We will, of course, follow that. But we are hearing from our viewers this morning that many of you saw your SNAP benefits loaded onto your EBT cards overnight. We are working to confirm that with officials if the benefits have actually been distributed. But in the meantime, we want to hear from all of you. So please email us at arcpdx@katu.com and tell us what you are all seeing this morning. Now, this also comes as Oregon faces hundreds of millions of dollars in cuts to the state SNAP program through 2027 as a result of the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill being signed into law. It also changed eligibility requirements. According to a SNAP policy analyst with the nonprofit Oregon Hunger, about 90,000 Oregonians are at risk of losing their benefits, and 40,000 households will see their benefits cut by around $58 a month. So now I'm going to bring in our special guest, Kyle Camberg. He is the executive director here at Sunshine Division. Known you forever too as well, Kyle, so thank you so much for joining us this morning and for hosting us here too.
Thanks for being here.
Of course. Okay, so first, give us an idea of what you guys do here in this warehouse.
Yeah, so this is our fulfillment center. We've been looking for a building, as we discussed, for about 3 years. Finally found one, but Safeway Albertsons has let us use this. This is where we sort food. We package boxes here. We warehouse behind us. It gets out onto a truck and gets out into the community. So whether that's our food pantry, our home delivery, schools, churches, other people we work with, the food starts here, but it ends, at people's doorstep or at our pantry so people can get fed.
So, when we found out this morning that we were hearing from our viewers that they were seeing their SNAP benefits loaded this morning after that federal judge ruled that the Trump administration must pay in full by today, how does that make you feel?
I mean, it's relief.
Yeah.
Breathing a sigh of relief. We've seen so many families, just an enormous uptick in people coming to our front door, our home delivery lists filling in hours as opposed to days. And the common theme was, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know where I'm going to turn. As you just noted, 450,000 Oregonian households. And that's something like 150,000 households just in Multnomah County. So where are these families turning? Places like Sunshine Division across the country.
So now do you think this is solved? I mean, now that people are having their money show up on their EBT cards, how is that making you feel about this whole situation?
Well, cautiously optimistic that things are going to be a little better for those 450,000 households. But clearly this shows the system is tenuous at best.
Yeah.
As you noted, next year we're gearing up for even more cuts. We're just in a reality for many years now, post-pandemic, where so many families, so many individuals are on razor-thin margins, and just one little thing turns them to needing food relief. So whether that's pandemic, school closures, natural disasters, record inflation, which I'm sure you've covered many times, all of these things keep compounding. And then we had, our most recent crisis. So it's been one thing after the other for 5 years now. So I'd love to say things are going to be amazingly better. They're not. But at least this is a little relief immediately for these families.
So let's go back to when the news first broke that people would be losing their SNAP benefits on November 1st. How quickly did you see an impact from that?
Almost immediately, the phone started ringing. We certainly saw, an uptick at our pantries, and then by the end of the month, there was almost a bit of panic. And so we really tried to jump into action. We're one charity and an ecosystem of a lot of charities, but we have nearly doubled our home delivery since last summer. We expanded our hours at our food pantry, and then we bumped up our numbers. I know you've covered our Thanksgiving and Christmas home deliveries. We bumped those numbers up, to, by over 1,000. But as much as we did that, like immediately you know, these spaces were filled by families because people are in desperation mode.
And who are you seeing show up, especially this week? Like, who are you getting calls from?
You know, I'm so happy that you asked that, because there's, you know, we sort of discuss what you see online or people's comments, and you know, sometimes frankly it's rather ugly, but the most common demographics we've seen these past 2 weeks are, number one, senior citizens who are on fixed income. I talked to many senior citizens in the past week who said, this is the thing, you know, I'm housed, I worked my whole life, I'm on Social Security, maybe a small pension, but this is how I'm able to eat. And they came to us and they were, you know, just shell-shocked. How am I going to get through this? The other is families with kids. You know, if you have children, daycare. You know, can I work full-time and do daycare? Healthcare has gone up, rent has gone up, and so families with kids and senior citizens are by far number one and number two that are, you know, just affected by this so horrifically. And so we saw a massive influx of people that needed a little extra help because SNAP just disappeared overnight.
Did you see an influx in people you maybe had never met before? Maybe people who had never used a food bank before?
Also a great question. This past week, because when folks come to our food pantry, we have a really quick intake process. We get a little information about them. About 2/3 of the families were new clients. That never happens. I think a normal week would be around 10% of our clients. So 2/3 of people showing up were, again, in this mode of the rug's been ripped out from underneath me. What do I do? They're turning to food pantries all across the country.
Yeah, and so we did get a response from governors, right? So we know Governor Tina Kotek allocated $5 million for food banks throughout the state. But your situation is a little bit different. Are you going to be able to see any of that money?
Yeah, so Sunshine Division is a pretty unique charity, you know, formed 102 years ago by the mayor and the police chief of Portland, became a charity in the 1960s, so we've been around 100 years. We're kind of this unique, rare, independent, nonprofit food relief organization, so we're not part of like a national Feeding America or a regional food bank network. Everything we do, all the food you see in this warehouse, any programs we do, completely funded by local companies, local individuals like you and I, and an army of about 4,000 local volunteers. So we are completely independent. We're not a part of that funding. We're not federally or state funded. It's all local people helping their local community. So a little different than maybe some of the regional entities that you've talked about around the country, around the state, but still doing the good fight here.
And still seeing the influx when these funds are cut.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, we're not going to receive. The good news, the federal cuts won't hurt us. The bad news is the federal cuts hurt all of the citizens. And so where are they going to turn? Places like us. So definitely in Portland, huge impact on us in a negative way in terms of how many people need our help.
Yeah. So how do you feel as you stand here right now and look toward tomorrow, next week, next month, next year?
It's hard. I mean, I would say I would not have done this sort of work for 14 years if I wasn't naturally an optimist, or someone, you know, we've talked with the staff, we've talked with our volunteers. We're going to dig in and do everything we can. We're not going to retreat. We're going to fight. We're expanding what we're doing for the next 60 days, whether or not these cards are filled today. You know, that's happening. We also know there's going to be challenges again next year. We're gearing up to open a new facility and help even more people next year. So we're going to do more. The community needs us. This, you know, Sunshine Division's been around almost 103 years now. So this isn't going away. This isn't going to be magically solved. It's a community solution for people in our area here, Portland Metro, from the local citizens, from the local volunteers, the local donors. This isn't going to change whether, you know, Washington D.C. magically has a great solution tomorrow or goes back to business as usual. We know we need to have a local solution, and that's really what we're doing.
Yeah. And I do want to ask you this, because the administration's goal in cutting food assistance funds earlier this year when they did that was to, quote, lift millions of Americans out of dependency and into hopeful futures and unimagined possibilities through new and innovative approaches. Do you think these cuts will do that?
I mean, for the families we see, that you know, senior couple that I spoke to this week, the mom with kids that I spoke to this week, the veteran that now has you know, an injury from war, the student at PSU that's working part-time, going to school part-time, but can't make I don't think that statement rings true. So there are always going to be people that have challenges and situations where they need a little bit of help. It's why our organizations exist, but it's also why these social safety nets exist. And frankly, with inflation, with affordability, with the cost of healthcare rising, it's not getting any easier for people. So I can't say I agree with that statement. If anything, I think, you know, we as a community, we're trying to do more, and we're seeing that this week. People are volunteering, people are hosting food drives, people are donating. You see it all across there's restaurants feeding people. I think we all see that it's gotten tougher, not easier, since 2020 for people just simply to get by. So I'd have to say we have to do more locally and not hope that, you know, that the government is going to be able to magically solve this, because they don't seem inclined to.
Kyle Camberg, Executive Director of Sunshine Division, thank you so much for having us this morning. All right, as the government shutdown continues, I think we have some new information here, right? Yes, I think you guys just gave me some new information, because we did hear from ODHS. So the federal government does remain shut down, but ODHS was able to issue full November SNAP benefits. People in Oregon who receive SNAP will see 100% of their November benefit amount beginning on November 7th, 2025. That's today. And before going to the store, they say check your EBT card balance to make sure that your benefits are available. Use only the official EBT Edge website or the EBT Edge mobile app. Can you guys remind me just who that statement is from? We were just given that statement from ODHS. So that is confirmation for you that we were just able to get that, yes, you should be seeing some money being loaded onto your EBT cards today. The uncertainty over the disruption in SNAP benefits is affecting all Oregonians. Some of those impacts are exacerbated in some rural areas. So joining us to talk about it now is Sharon Thornberry, a rural food insecurity advocate. Sharon, thank you so much for joining us for ARC PDX this morning. Really appreciate it.
Good morning, Wesley. It's my pleasure to be here.
So I know you're currently with Philomath Community Services, but you have worked with multiple organizations, including the Oregon Food Bank, over the decades. Can you tell us quickly a little bit about your experience with anti-hunger advocacy and why you do this work?
For 4 decades, I've done anti-hunger work across Oregon and across the nation. I was with the Regional Food Bank, Lynn Benton Food Share, then 25 years at Oregon Food Bank. And I retired technically from OFB 2 years ago and took a job as the executive director of Philomath Community Services. I worked in every county in Oregon. I developed a community organizing model called FEAST, Food, Education, Agriculture Solutions Together, to help communities, rural communities in particular, better organize their food security efforts.
So we are hearing this morning that Oregonians are seeing their balances full now on their EBT cards this morning after the judge yesterday ruled that the Trump administration needed to pay those benefits out in full by today. How does that news make you feel?
It's a relief. We had seen an increase. This week alone, we'd had 84 recipients at our food pantry. And we're having we also have a gleaning program for low-income people. We've seen increasing interest in that program. And the food supply, quite honestly, has not been great prior to this. So trying to get enough food on hand and to be able to supply people and to ramp up is difficult. In previous month, we had served 158 total for 4 weeks. So 84 is a huge increase.
Yeah, and how quickly, you know, when the news first broke that people would be losing their SNAP benefits on November 1st, how quickly did Philomath Community Services feel the impact of that?
Immediately. People were scared, and I understand that. I was a person who got to the point that I had nothing to feed my 2 small children and ended up on the other side of the food pantry counter back in the 70s. And so, and they were brand new back then. In fact, the first food pantry I ever saw, they showed me in the window and said they didn't have the key, but I could come back later. So it's a scary proposition. You don't know how you're going to eat. You don't know how you're going to feed your children. You have health concerns that require that you eat and you not eat the cheapest food there is, and you can't fulfill your needs.
And how do these cuts and this uncertainty affect rural Oregonians more so than those maybe in urban areas or the suburbs?
And you're right. The cuts are part of the issue because even though full benefits are coming back, there are cuts that have been made that are going to affect all Oregonians, many Oregonians, and the amount of benefit they get. Um, we have met the need because we have a fantastic community that has stepped up to help us. The food is coming through the door, the donations are coming through the door. We were in the midst of our fall appeal, and the response has been amazing. So we're going to have the food we need. We're going to be able to buy the protein. But we had really suffered the cuts because of the bonus commodity program that was cut early in the administration. And that brought in protein. Primarily, our primary source of proteins came from that program. So it was about a 40% loss statewide of proteins and some produce.
So what are you doing to try to meet this increased demand? Are you able to meet it?
Oh, we're going to meet it because of our community. We're purchasing food. The governor's release of funds, it will starting to trickle through already to our organizations through the regional food bank network. Oregon is very lucky that they have a statewide regional food bank network, and it really does help. But in rural communities, it's challenging, and especially when you get into Eastern Oregon, which I've spent quite a bit of time over there. There are fewer grocery stores. There are just simply fewer places to donate extra product that off the shelf once it gets close dated. There are just fewer places and food processors. And the number of food processors in Oregon have diminished, and they've become owned by national corporations. And they are not as responsive as when those those businesses were owned in Oregon.
And you know, an argument that we're seeing being amplified a lot right now is that people on food assistance are lazy, they're not working, they're just trying to game the system. What's your response to people who say that?
Being poor is hard work. Being food insecure is hard work. You have to worry every day about what's coming next. I've had heartbreaking calls recently, and I get them from time to time anyway, but in the last week we've counted, and my colleague and we've counted off 30 that just really caught at our soul because people are scared. And a lot of it's seniors and disabled, it's people with children, you know, a mom who's trying to work full-time or part-time, balance childcare. These people are not lazy. Maybe there's some, but not really, because it's something you have to work at and to keep food security in your family. And so, yeah, it's just not true.
If food banks, if you guys, if the community can't step up and this shutdown drags on, and who knows, maybe more cuts are coming in the future, what's the biggest risk here right now? Like, what are you most worried about?
Children and seniors are going to go hungry, and they're going to suffer for that. A lot of people are going to go hungry, but I'm most worried about the children and the seniors and people who are truly disabled, especially veterans. Our veterans are a lot of Middle East veterans are just left out, and the Vietnam veterans. There's fewer and fewer Vietnam veterans left alive, but they're alone. They haven't been able to function in society, and they depend on the kindness of others for the sacrifice they made. And it's going to hurt.
And really quickly, I'm running out of time with you, unfortunately. Sharon, what do you think is the ultimate solution to food insecurity, maybe specifically here in Oregon?
Well, solid programming to support funding to support the programming that's here. SNAP does work. We saw it work during the pandemic. When SNAP benefits were raised during the pandemic, the number of people coming to food pantries actually decreased because it was at a level that actually supported people and helped them buy the food that they needed. So the programs work. There needs to be support for the programs, and there needs to be a universal recognition that it's necessary. And the other population that I'm worried about is the refugees. I have some large families I'm working with right now, and they're cut off their benefits. They're not coming back. They're not going to get benefits. And if you've got a family of 8 or 9 because you raised that many kids to make sure some of them survived, and now you've gone through a refugee camp and you're here in the United States, and what's being said to you is, we don't care whether or not you can feed your kids. That's not America.
Sharon Thornberry with Philomath Community Services, really appreciate your time this morning. Good luck, and thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
The uncertainty over SNAP benefits prompted many businesses to step in to help, and one of the first to do so here in Portland was Heretic Coffee. Since their announcement to help, they have received hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations. So joining us live this morning on Zoom is Josh White, the owner of Heretic Coffee. Josh, it is such an honor to meet you finally. Thank you so much for joining us for ARC PDX.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay, so when we first talked to you just last week, you had received just over $70,000 in donations. What are you up to right now?
So as of right now, we're a little over $350,000 raised.
Amazing. That's incredible. How do you feel when you see that number?
You know, I feel two things. Number one, it's very close to over 12,000 people that have donated to this literally across the world. So you have people in other countries now helping feed Americans. That's something for us to think about. That's one feeling. The other one is there is an immense responsibility that was just laid in our small, shop's hands. And so we very much fully understand we're not going to be using all this money to feed people. We know that. And there are also incredible food banks and mutual aid organizations and other nonprofits that have done this work many years before we've been here. And so we are in conversation with all those people, making sure we're doing all the little things needed to properly be able to distribute a very large amount of this money to those people.
That's fantastic. Okay, so what did you originally see or read or hear that told you that you needed to do something to help people?
Yeah, for me, it was kind of a very simple calculus. We saw people were losing their SNAP benefits, so people were hungry. We have food, and we're going to feed people. This has kind of been at the very ethic and ethos of our shop. If someone's in need, if we have the resources, we're going to do it. So for us, the result of what the SNAP breakfast was, it was a very simple calculation.
And it's already hard to run a coffee shop or a restaurant. Did you worry at all that this would be bad for business and that this would hurt your bottom line?
Oh, I didn't care. No, we just don't care. If we've said from the very beginning, if we go broke doing this, we don't care. We're going to feed people.
So maybe for any other businesses watching who are thinking about doing the same thing, how has this been for your business and your bottom line?
Yeah, I mean, I can only, obviously speak for our shop. It's been beautiful to see literally over, hundreds of other coffee shops from around the country and restaurants doing this. I've seen people doing SNAP yoga, SNAP chiropractor sessions, SNAP dog walking. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. It feels very early, like COVID-esque in some ways, of just community coming together. I would say to other coffee shops or restaurants doing this, number one, make sure you're doing all the legal things, make sure you're good there. And then number two, take care of you and your employees. And then if you have something to give away, if you can, give it away to the people who need it.
Mm-hmm. So just to catch people up, what you guys did is you said, anybody who comes in, no questions asked. If you just ask for the SNAP breakfast, you will get a free breakfast. Can you estimate maybe how many people you've provided free breakfast for?
Yeah, so on our Threads account, we've been doing daily updates. I believe we do right around 150 SNAP breakfasts every day. Over this weekend, if we have the same amount of traffic, we should be able to reach over 1,000 people fed just in this last week.
And when those first donations then started coming in, how did you feel?
Yeah, again, at first it was beautiful, it was emotional, and then as that number rose, I was like, okay, this is something to be both in awe of and to be responsible for.
And when we first talked to you, you told us a story about an 11-year-old who came into your shop hungry. Do you have any other stories like that to tell us that you've heard or seen over the week?
Yeah, I mean, there's one universal story, which is I would say out of the close to 1,000 meals that we'll do over this last week, half of them are children. And I think that's something that the world needs to know. Half of them are children who quite possibly would have gone to bed hungry. That's one. The other one is people are not abusing the SNAP system. We had a lady come in a couple of days ago who ordered the SNAP breakfast, and then she said, could I also give a little bit of money to the SNAP fund to help feed other people? So this is someone who got the free breakfast, but also wants to help our community too. And she donated 81 cents out of a little change purse in her pocket. As a matter of fact, she stood in line for another 20 or 30 seconds because she kept saying, I know I've got another nickel in here somewhere, and kept digging in her purse to find that last 5 cents to give.
Wow. And there's this other thing too, where the administration's goal in cutting funding and assistance funds earlier this year was to, quote, lift millions of Americans out of dependency and into hopeful futures and unimagined possibilities through new and innovative approaches. From what you're seeing and from the people you're seeing come in and ask for help, do you think these cuts will help people do that?
I mean, it sounds like whoever's making that decision has never gone hungry in their life. You know, I've seen other politicians do this thing where they're like, we're going to go without food today to kind of feel. What they don't understand is they know where their next meal is coming. So this very much sounds like someone who's never gone hungry in their life. These are people who come in and get our SNAP breakfast. These are people who work full-time jobs and still can't pay their bills. These are single mothers who have just literally been handed some of the worst situations of their life, and they're just trying to provide for their children. These are not people. There are going to be a few people out there, sure, who might abuse the system. The vast majority of it, they are dependent on it to feed their families while they're also working way harder than a lot of people out there that are making really nice salaries.
And, this morning we did hear that a lot of people are seeing money loaded onto their EBT cards after that federal judge ruled yesterday that the Trump administration has to pay in full. What does that do for you guys? Are you going to continue this campaign?
Yeah, so we're watching that closely. We already posted on our Instagram this morning that we're going to watch how many people come in today for the SNAP breakfast, as well as over the weekend. Most of our people that received the SNAP breakfast came in over Saturday and Sunday last weekend. So our first step right now is we're going to see what the foot traffic is like. We're going to update everyone at the end of the day, how many meals that we did. And then from there, our plan since day one, after raising the first $100,000, we're going to start, distributing this money to some of the most underprivileged, undermarginalized, some of the most under-resourced mutual aid groups in the city. So those are all of our next plans, and you should be able to see some of that in action at minimum early next week.
Okay, we will keep checking back in with you. Josh White, owner of Heretic Coffee, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and thank you for what you're doing.
Of course, thank you.